Shalom, all praises Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and salutations to the Archim out there doing this work in sincerity and truth. Just another quick video. I'm entitled this one, The Times Speak for Itself. I'm going to start by reading Ecclesiastes, third chapter. I'm not going to read the whole thing, just going to extrapolate a few points. This is Ecclesiastes 3:1. To everything there is a season and a time, to every purpose under the heaven. Third verse. A time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up. Eighth verse. A time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. It's 2016, and that wine that everyone passes around, that philosophy of love, has passed away, man. That the wheels have fell off, so to speak, and left the people who believe in it stranded, not knowing what to do. That deep-seated hatred and enmity between the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans, and the so-called white man, the 12 tribes, and between the so-called white man, it's waxing worse and worse and worse. You got the killings in Dallas, and not just Dallas, all around the world, where Esau, or the so-called white man, using his police force, military, have been oppressing Jake throughout history. And only now is Jake waking up to the fact that this man is the devil, in the light that all these officers are killing Jakes and getting away with it scot-free. Because Jakes was never supposed to be a part of America. They was just there to be slaves, man, and serve. But Jake gets a house, a car, and kids and a woman, and he thinks he's out of slavery. You also have the post-Brexit issue with xenophobia. I believe that they say, if I'm not mistaken, a 40% rise in racism since the Brexit vote, which shows you these people always were racist in the first place, because you've always had Edomites hate Edomites, but ultimately all nations join together really to hate the most, have a common passion to hate Jake. Prophecies are coming to pass more and more every day, and evidently so. We're in a time of war and not a time of peace. This is an article on allnewspipeline.com. Says worldwide chaos about to peak, Russian Armageddon convoy practices for World War III. As warnings ring out loudly, something strange is going on. There's a small caption of an intercontinental ballistic missile, which adds to the sentiment of what time you're living in. They wasn't created to make for love, and they wasn't created to defend no Jake's life. They're there to put 2/3 of the nation of Israel out of their misery and destroy America. This is Jeremiah 51:1. Thus saith the Lord, behold, I will raise up against Babylon and against them that dwell in the midst of them, that rise up against me, a destroying wind. And what's that destroying wind? That's talking about intercontinental ballistic missile. Now it says Babylon there, but really Babylon, the new Babylon, is talking about in Jeremiah 51st chapter is America. Verse 6, flee out of the midst of Babylon and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity, for this is the time of the Lord's vengeance. He will render unto her a recompense. Britain and America was and still is an economic hub for slaves, especially Jakes, because Jakes were brought there through slavery to be traded as a commodity. You had the KKK and all these different groups which were raping and murdering our people for satisfaction. Scripture just told you that the vengeance is the Lord's and he will render unto her a recompense. So America's going to be destroyed. It's going to be, the so-called white man is going to be paid back for all the crimes that he's committed. Verse 7, Babylon has been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. At one point the Lord was dealing with America. He gave this so-called white man a time to rule. Daniel 4:17 says, the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and he giveth it to whomsoever he will, and set up over it the basest of men. What people don't understand, Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai is a God of war, man, as it says in the scriptures. And he sets up kingdoms to bring them down. He give this so-called white man the technology of how to split the atom and so forth to make these missiles, just so that the Lord can use them against himself and destroy him for the sake of his servants, the elect, the 1/3, 144,000 that's going to be saved from the destruction of Esau's kingdom. Esau made the nation, everyone drunken through democracy, especially you Jakes, but you nations as well. You thought democracy was going to bring peace to your countries, to your people, setting up all these deals and treaties and so forth. But then the so-called white man turns around and stabs you in the back. He sets up these banks in your countries, and what's he do? He gets your countries into debt and steals all your resources. So the scripture said, therefore the nations are mad. It says, Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her, take balm for her pain. If so, she may be healed. That's the Lord's cruel sense of humor. That scripture's talking about the bailouts. The bailouts make the economy look stable for a period of time, but really it doesn't stimulate market growth. It just makes the debt even bigger. Continuing on with this document, it says the attempted overthrow last night of the Turkish government in a coup that has failed is just the latest chaotic event that we've been witnessing around the world in a build-up to what some have warned could result in a new world war. People have been comforted by technology and pacified by democracy that they don't suppose war can happen. In the ancient world, it was always the military that had or kept the power over the nations, the generals, the captains, etc. An example of that would be so-called Alexander the Great, spoken of in the first book of Maccabees, chapter 1. I think verse 8 or verse 9, it tells you that the 4 generals put on crowns, and basically became kings and took over the different provinces that Alexander was ruling over upon his death. And even then you would have tyrants and betrayal for the rulership seat. Continuing on with the document, it says, if we needed any more evidence beyond Barack Obama's latest executive order that they are getting ready for something bad to happen, these executive orders are really put in place to defend the government's actions when they use force. They're expecting a civil war, and they've got plans against domestic terrorism, which we all know they just want to set up the men teaching this truth to deem them terrorists. But that stretches further and expands towards these Christians or these religious factions or truthers or even preppers. Anyone who's anti-government will be deemed a domestic terrorist. You got news reports saying Putin is carrying out missile launch drills on the Russian border as mobile nuclear missile launchers are rumbling through the Russian forests. Also, you got the US's build-up of warships around the disputed South China Sea islands. Countless evidence that World War III is about to kick off. This is Joel 3:9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say I'm strong. So all nations have become just as strong as the so-called white man, because they've all got one thing in common, which is these missile systems and also high-tech weaponry. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. And the valley of Jehoshaphat is Jehoshaphat being Yahweh in the Hebrew, meaning the place of the Most High's judgment, because that's where all these nations all their militaries are gonna gather around the Middle East to have this World War III, this fight. Put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come get ye down, for the press is full. There's gonna be a lot of dead bodies. The fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. Alright, and the word Armageddon means mountain of the troops. Once again, the article Russian Armageddon convoy practices for World War III is highlighting the Armageddon, or the war between Russia, NATO and the EU. By NATO gathering around the borders of Russia, that's practically declaring war on Russia. This is Revelations 9 and 12. One war is past, and behold, there come 2 worlds more hereafter. First World War's past, the Second World War's past, for the third one is coming. This thing with them pushing these executive orders to make plans against domestic terrorism is for the people who won't accept the RFID chip or the mark of the beast spoken of in Revelations, the 13th chapter. If they don't accept it, then they'll be deemed a terrorist. Then the government can justify themselves by these executive orders to do whatever they want to do. You know, we're coming into the time of Jacob's trouble, and in Revelations, I believe the 2nd chapter, it tells you, you know, be a faithful servant unto death, man. Endure. This is Revelation 16 and 15. Behold, I come as a thief. Blessed is he that watcheth and keepeth his garments, lest he walk naked and see his shame. They see his shame. You know, so the whole point is, you know, keep praying. Pray for faith. Pray for the kingdom of heaven. And pray for the downfall of this so-called white man, man. And with that, I'm going to say shalom.